Hey, welcome to this nutrition course, Nutrition 101. We're answering the question, what are whole foods? I'll be your host. I'm Coach Kyle, and I help busy professionals build strength and gain confidence through structured workouts and simplified nutrition. Throughout this course, we're going to be solving that last piece to the puzzle, simplifying nutrition. There's a lot of misinformation out there, and this course is not to point you to a specific diet, calorie counting, or anything like that. It's to teach you how to get back to our roots of eating real food found in nature and getting away from the highly processed stuff. So let's get into it. So first off, we want to ask ourselves, what is food? It's something that's naturally edible that provides nutrients and energy to our bodies. So food products can only mimic this, but they lack the real nutrients. They're an imitation. What is the purpose of food? It's to provide vital nutrients and energy for survival and to meet our basic needs. So of course, taste, cost, convenience all have their stake of importance, but I think that first point, providing vital nutrients and energy, is going to trump that. Food is medicine, and food brings people together. What are organic foods and why are they important? Organic foods are foods that are produced without synthetic fertilizers, preservatives, and other chemically induced methods. These foods are of better quality because they're closer to their natural state as possible. So I'm going to repeat that throughout this course. Eating foods that are as close to their natural state as possible. That's the name of the game here. So organic foods tend to be more expensive. That pushes people away. So why is that? Organic foods are rarer and less available. Organic labeling is more expensive and harder to obtain. They have a lot of rules and regulations to follow. There's restrictions on what they can't put in the food. Organic foods typically have smaller yields. Non-organic foods can be produced faster and cheaper. And just the simple fact that organic foods are of better quality, that itself drives the price up. So now that we got some of those intro things out of the way, let's get into the crux of this first lesson. What exactly are whole foods? Whole foods, by definition, are foods that are unprocessed or as minimally processed as possible. Most foods are processed to some extent. We want to avoid those highly processed foods, and we're going to get more into that in lesson 2. These foods are as close to their natural state as possible. When trying to identify a whole food, think, was this a food that was made by God naturally or unnaturally created by man in a lab? So how do you differentiate between whole foods and processed foods? When looking at a food, try to identify how many steps did it take to get to where it is. The fewer, the better. So think about an apple versus applesauce. If you have an organic apple that you pick off of a tree, it hasn't been sprayed with pesticides, and you eat that, that's generally a nutritious food. But as soon as you take that apple, or as you're growing it, you're spraying pesticides on it, and you pluck it off the tree, you mash it down, you add sugar, you add coloring, and you create it into applesauce, it's farther removed from its natural state now. Now it's not as good of quality. Think of a carrot versus carrot cake. You take a carrot, you mash it down. I don't know how to make carrot cake, but I would believe you add butter and sugar and all these other things to it to sweeten it up, to fatten it up. It's farther removed now. Think about fried chicken versus organic chicken breast. You take the organic chicken. If you have a chicken that was raised without antibiotics, it's free range. But then you take the chicken and add refined oils to it. You're deep frying it. You're adding breading to it. It's farther removed from its natural state. And even if you start with a chicken breast that wasn't organic, they have the antibiotics on it, and the chicken was not raised in a healthy manner, then that's also farther removed and it's not as natural, it's not as healthy. So what are examples of whole foods? You have vegetables, fruits, nuts and seeds, organic lean meats, beans and legumes, and whole sprouted grains. We're going to go into each of those now. So first off on the list is vegetables. And this is by no means an exhaustive list. These are just some examples to give you an idea. You have power greens, broccoli, asparagus, carrots, avocados, onions, sweet potatoes, and many other things. They each have their own benefit, so it's a good idea to eat a variety of them. So what are veggies good for? There's a lot of benefits that stick out, but here's some of the ones I wanted to mention today. Vegetables can help to fight inflammation. They strengthen the immune system. They aid in digestion and healthy gut health. They fight to prevent heart disease and other illnesses. They promote good brain health. They're high in antioxidants. They aid in recovery of muscle and other cells, and they improve general functioning of the body. Next up on the list is fruits. Here's some examples: berries, apples, bananas, mangoes, grapefruit, oranges, jackfruit, grapes, peaches, pineapple, and pomegranate. What are fruits good for? Fruits provide antioxidants which fight free radical and oxidative stress. Fruits can be consumed after intense exercise to replenish muscle glycogen. So for an intense exercise, we're burning off our muscle glycogen, which is essentially any nutrient that is burnt or broken down into usable sugar for energy, a type of sugar. So if we eat some fruit after a workout, it can be helpful to help us recover. Also, it could be a good idea before a workout to fuel the workout. Fruits can help lower your risk of developing heart disease. Fruits are nutrient dense and provide vitamins and minerals. Fruits, especially blueberries, can improve brain power. So fruits are naturally high in sugar, natural sugars. There's a lot of health benefits to them, but this is a food that you don't want to be eating all day long and going crazy with, because too much sugar is still too much sugar. But they do have a lot of good benefits. Third up on the list is nuts and seeds. So examples of these are almonds, walnuts, cashews, macadamia nuts, Brazil nuts, which I heard are very good and nutritious, but I haven't actually tried them, chia seeds, hemp seeds, flax seeds, and quinoa. What are nuts and seeds good for? They're high in healthy fats and protein. Nuts such as walnuts promote good brain health. They keep you fuller longer and are great as a snack to add to salads, shakes, or on the side. They can promote good skin health because they're high in vitamin E, and they are high in many vitamins and minerals. So watch out for the nuts and seed mixes with added sugars and oils. If you need some sort of trail mix, I suggest trying to make them yourself. Next up on the list, organic lean meats. So I went vegan for a month and I wanted to try out new ways to consume protein. I learned a lot and it was a great experience, but I did find myself going back to organic lean meats because it worked well for me for a good protein source. So here's some examples: organic free-range chicken, grass-fed beef and steak, organic turkey, wild-caught fish, and wild boar, buffalo, deer, and other game meats. What are organic meats good for? Well, they're an excellent source of protein. They're a good source of saturated fat. They provide B12 vitamins. They provide zinc, iron, and other minerals, and they aid in muscle growth and recovery. So not all protein sources are complete, but your meat sources are more of a complete protein source, meaning they have all the necessary amino acids attached to it. All right, fifth up on the list are beans and legumes. So beans are a part of the legume family, and legumes are a part of the vegetable family. So you have black beans, pinto beans, navy beans, black-eyed peas, lentils, chickpeas, edamame, green peas, and snap peas. So these foods aren't really a part as much of the Western American diet, but a lot of other cultures eat these. And things like the black beans, lentils, edamame are great protein sources, so these could be other alternatives if you're not eating meat. So what are they good for? They're a good source of protein and complex carbohydrates. So there's different types of carbohydrates. The complex ones typically are slower digesting and they're higher in fiber. They help you to lower your risk of type 2 diabetes and heart disease. They lower blood pressure. They regulate HDL and LDL cholesterol. They're high in fiber to aid in digestion. They're high in antioxidants, and they contain high amounts of B vitamins, folate, calcium, iron, potassium, zinc, and other necessary nutrients. All right, last up on the list is whole sprouted grains. So you have alfalfa, millet, barley, rice, oats, rye, and whole grain wheat. So when I say whole grain wheat, I want you to avoid thinking, oh, whole grain bread is healthy for us. We need to be eating a lot of whole grain bread. But that's not necessarily true, because oftentimes whole grain bread has added sweeteners like high fructose corn syrup, and it has a lot of enriched materials to it. So if you see a food product with flour or grains, try to avoid it if it says enriched. So specific examples of sprouted grain products. So you have bread, Ezekiel bread. That works well for me as opposed to any other regular flour bread. This one's flourless. 1 degree sprouted rolled oats, and then basmati rice tends to be of good quality. What are sprouted grains good for, and why are they better than unsprouted grains? You can see in the picture here, the regular grains are smaller, the sprouted grains are more dense. So sprouted grains are superior to regular unsprouted grains because they allow for better digestion and absorption. Sprouted grains are soaked to unveil more of their natural occurring nutrients, such as protein, fiber, B vitamins, vitamin C, folate, iron, magnesium, and other things. Sprouted grains are more fibrous than regular grains, so they won't spike your insulin or blood sugar levels. So people with autoimmune or other serious health issues may have a hard time utilizing any sort of grain, so you might want to use that sparingly if you have this condition or feel like you have a hard time digesting in general. Where can you find whole foods? So first off, shop local. Shop your local markets, your farmers markets. Your big chain grocery stores tend to have most of what you need, but they won't have as much of the organic options, specialty items, and their produce is usually not as good. Don't go to Walmart because they suck. Whole Foods, the store, is great, but they tend to be more expensive than a lot of other options. So where I live in Michigan, I shop at Trader Joe's, Fresh Thyme, and Kroger, and then Costco I go to for my bulk items. But Trader Joe's and Fresh Thyme are my favorite options for produce. Other things to consider. Buy in season. Buy produce and other things that expire faster more often instead of buying them in bulk. So your meats, rice, and oats, and other things that you can freeze and or store, you can buy those in bulk. It'll save you time and money. Notice expiration dates. Whole foods typically tend to expire faster than processed foods. Eat a variety of fruits and vegetables of different colors and try new food items. Shop the perimeter of the grocery store. This is typically where you'll find the produce, and the aisles of the stores have more of the highly processed foods. Doesn't mean it's all bad, just the perimeter has more of the good stuff. Questions to consider. So I came up with a list of questions for you to ask yourself when you're looking at a whole food. I have a downloadable document attached to this course for many other questions to think about. So first off, does it have a reasonable expiration date? So like I mentioned, things like fruits, vegetables, meats tend to expire faster. And then things you'll store in bulk, oats, rice, canned beans, frozen foods, they will last longer. But pay attention to the expiration date on your fresher foods. How far removed is it from its natural state? Think about how many steps it took to get to where it is. So think about the apple versus the applesauce. Can the food be found naturally on Earth, or was it created unnaturally in a lab? Was this food around during my grandmother's time or great-grandmother's time? So new highly processed foods are always being created. So if it's unrecognizable by grandma or your great-grandmother, that might be a good sign that it's not the best choice. Are there a lot of things added to it? So that should be kept to a minimum to keep it as healthy as possible. All right, wrapping things up. Whole foods are foods that are as close to their natural state as possible. They're unprocessed or as minimally processed as possible. Some examples of whole foods are vegetables, fruits, nuts and seeds, organic lean meats, beans and legumes, and whole sprouted grains. My tip to you guys is eat foods that are as close to their natural state as possible and eat more whole foods. All right, that's it for today's lesson. The next lesson in this course is on processed foods. And if you are watching this video anywhere other than my website and haven't purchased this program yet, I go into a lot of other tips on processed foods and how to avoid them, how to read a food label, how to eat healthily when you're out, and other tips and tricks to teach you how to simplify your food, how to get away from those highly processed foods, and getting you to eat more real foods. If you'd like to check out the rest of this course, I have a link attached to this video.